Hey guys, welcome to the Music Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, where today I am going to be giving my live report of the No Girl No Cry concert day 2. The concert held at Metlife Dome between Poppin Party and Silent Siren. Now, if you guys haven't seen my day 1 video yet, you guys are welcome to check that one out. It is a bit long, I went a little bit overboard, but I wanted to give some background info and some introduction to both the bands as well. So again, I am mostly looking at this from a Poppin Party fan perspective, but I do know of Silent Siren, so I will comment wherever I can. Beyond that, also, I will be giving my summary thoughts at the very end of this video, so including, you know, the thoughts of the No Girl No Cry both days overall, as well as how Poppin Party and the franchise is going to move forward. So they'll all be timestamped below, so if you guys are interested in whichever points, just click whichever part you want to look at. So also a little bit of background information for day 2. I didn't get premium seats in day 1. I did get the premium arena seats. In day 2, I decided to spend some money, save some money. So I bought normal seats, which were on the far side of the field. If we look at this as a baseball field, if this is home plate, this would be first base, right? And then second base is over here. So my seats were all second base all the way back here. So to the far side of the field. It's definitely far. I can't really see the stage. I have to look at the screen, but it does give me a good vantage point to look at the entire arena. And also when the girls are on the moving stage and move to the far side of the field, I can see them there. So just a little bit difference between day 1 and day 2, my seating positions. And because of this, I was able to observe, you know, the amount of people that actually attended. So in day 1, I believe in day 1, they actually did a quick survey as to how many people were going to day 2 as well. And I believe like 70% of people raised their hands. Although at that time I was in the arena seat, so I had no idea if the people in the bleachers and whatnot, whether they would attend both days. I will say that day 2 attendance was quite obviously lower than day 1. There might be a few reasons for that. My personal theory is that because Metlife Dome is in a more remote location, it's not very good to, if you want to get back after the concert ends, it ends somewhere around 8, and then, you know, you still have the lines to go for and whatnot. By the time you go back to Tokyo, it might be sometime like 11 already, and people still have school and work the next day. So that is an obvious factor as to the lower attendance. Although I did feel that maybe Silent Siren fans increased a little bit compared to day 1. Although I don't like, that's just speculation on my part. And because of my vantage point, I could definitely see the difference in the seating. So in day 1, like I said, only the very far side seats on both sides, the very crappy seats, were left unsold. In day 2, I could clearly see some of the top rows also had less people in them as well. So there is an obvious difference in attendance between these 2 days. Beyond that, yeah, I think that's enough background. And also, I actually for day 2, I met up with some friends, and I even met up with one of the viewers, Jiko Nyan, I believe you're called, a Japanese viewer. I know you're watching this, so again, thank you for meeting up with me. And I also met some people, some of my own countrymen as well. I met a Bang Dreamer, and I also met a group of SaiSai fans as well. And we actually had a good time afterwards, but that's for the summary part. So, in any case, let me just get into the actual live report part right now. So we start off day 2 with the opening guest act by Raise, a SUILEN, right? And compared to the previous day, I was actually already in my seat this time. So again, nothing flashy, they just walked up to their instruments, picked it up, and started playing. And I did like how they started out with a declaration of XXX, if you will, or however you're supposed to say it when you're talking about the song title. It's one of these songs that does feature audience participation, you know, call and response. So it was really fun to shout along with this song, right? You know, 3, 2, 1, jump and whatnot for this one. And the other three, Unstoppable, R.I.O.T, and Exposed Burnout, really there's not much for me to say. And it's not that they didn't perform great. I mean, obviously they performed great. It's flawless. But the point is that these songs are more, you're just there to enjoy the music, right? There's not really anything else I can say about it. For Unstoppable and R.I.O.T, I was basically just, moving with the groove. I especially like the drum parts in that, but there's nothing particular that I want to mention. Well, I guess there were a few things, so, though these might be more trivial things. So, first of all, when SUILEN were doing their character introductions, there was some people sitting behind me that seemed to be SUILEN fans, and one of them was a girl, and when they introduced Choo Choo, the girl behind me screamed Choo Choo Sama, so similar to Perio, so that was quite funny to me. Also, I guess some other notable parts. There was this one part where R.I.O. was actually playing backwards. She had her face to the crowd and her arms behind her and playing the piano or playing the keyboards in that way, and that got quite a good of a reaction from the crowd as well. And they did their usual head whipping with Exposed Burnout. But like I said, mostly for those parts, I was just there to enjoy the music, if you will. And one thing that I will particularly note is Rachel's voice, right? So, of course, Rachel's voice has always been great, but the thing is, I was really impressed because even under those conditions, that at a dome, she was still able to hit those. Her high notes are just so exquisite, right? So she's able to hit those notes and have power to them without sounding like she's straining her voice. So again, although this isn't really news to anybody, but like I said, it's something that definitely left an impression on me. So they're wonderful live. I can definitely recommend you guys listening to SUILEN as well. So, in contrast to day one, Poppin Party and Silent Siren decided to switch their positions for day two. So, in day one, it was Poppin Party first, and then Silent Siren, and for this day, it's Silent Siren first, and then Poppin Party. So, they start off with Cherry Bomb, and again, a great way to start off as well. People who have attended day one before had already learned the cherry bomb hand gestures, but even still, again, praising their professionalism, even though they could have just skipped this part. Even in this day, starting with this song, they decided to have a tutorial first and asked people to learn how to do the hand gestures together. And there were indeed some people who only attended this day, so again, I do like that they make note of these kinds of people and do their best to accommodate the audience, right? So Cherry Bomb is Cherry Bomb. Again, similar to day one, I feel like they started out a little bit rough, but eventually settled down in the latter half of the song. So I'm not quite sure if they had some sound issues or whatnot, but that's what it is, right? So again, for song 2, Hachigatsu no Yoru, similar to yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about it. Tenka Ippin no theme, again similar to yesterday's. The fourth song, Just Meet, was a new song, but I don't particularly remember anything specific that I want to talk about for that song. It's just a fun, cute little song, and yeah, basically it. I guess I can talk a little bit about how they set up their members when they're using the moving stage and the moving carts at the same time. I don't think I mentioned this in day one. So for Poppin Party, when they go out on the moving stage and then get onto the carts, they're generally divided into groups of 2 and 3, right? And so each would circle the field from using from one side and going back to the main stage, whereas the moving stage would just move back by itself. In Silent Siren's case, the way that they do it is that they have 2 people, the drummer and the singer, the vocalist, guitarist, Sue. They would stay on the moving stage and then also move back to the middle position and then back to the original stage position as well, where the other 2, the bassist and the keyboardist of Silent Siren, they would each be on one of the carts, and eventually they would all gather at the main stage as well. It is sort of like a neat way of doing things, especially since you compared to Poppin Party, who, you know, when Hashi, the drummer, needs to go on the cart, she's not able to play an entire kit, right? It takes too much time to actually have another kit right there. So instead, she plays a watered-down version of the drums. Whereas in Silent Siren's case, because their drummer just stays on the moving stage, she can continue to do her drumming as well. So just a little explanatory info for you guys. So then we have another new song after Just Meet, and that is DanceMusiQ. So this song is actually a staple of lots of Silent Siren events. So it's a fun song. It's again a participation song, and there's some key things to it, right? So one is that they will use these very ridiculous looking LED glasses, if you will, LED plastic glasses, fake glasses. You know, they'll put them on and generally look like, well, it's just fun, right? It's just in good fun. And also, as the name implies, you're supposed to dance around with the music as well. Now, they didn't really teach you how to dance, but watching some other Silent Siren fans in the crowd, you pretty much just go like this all the time. And then they also have a crowd participation part where you're supposed to, you know, hang on to the shoulders of the people next to you, and then, you know, go move back and forth like this, sort of like a sporting event or whatnot. I was lucky the row I was in actually did have a Silent Siren fan, and as well as the people next to me were also more I guess more open to playing around. So we, in our row, we got together and played around with it. Although it definitely wasn't something that that every row did. Speaking with some Silent Siren fans that I met afterwards, you know, for them, if they were in a row, they would always do their best to try and get everybody moving around as well. So again, it's just a fun participation song. And number 6 would be No Girl No Cry. You know, it's the same as yesterday, so not really going to talk much about that. They do have interspersed some MC segments in there, but to be honest, by this time it's been a week. I can't remember what exactly they said or when they exactly set the talk segment. So if I do, you know, just gloss over that, I'm sorry, right? I just can't remember. And for their 7th song, they actually played Tokimeki Experience, right? So this one is, of course, a cover. And they actually hinted at this yesterday when they were playing around with Koi no Esper, and they played the intro verse to Tokimeki Experience. Well, here, they actually covered the entire song. And I was actually expecting something like this to happen, because it's already, you know, sort of battle of the bands, right? It's a versus live. So I was thinking that they would probably each cover a song of the other band. And so in this case, Silent Siren decided to cover Tokimeki Experience. And boy, when they started the, you know, no, DanceMusiQ is already a pretty fun song, right? But it still requires you to actively participate, you know. And not everybody is. It's one thing to shout around and wave your pen lights and whatnot. It's another thing to actually get together and start dancing around, right? It's a little bit different. No Girl No Cry, because it's also a song by Poppin Party as well. People can get into the call and response parts. But when it got to Tokimeki Experience, I'm telling you, the house blew. You know, everybody was so hyped for this song. And you know, being season 1's opening, and this, I don't actually really like this song all that much, but I will say that this song is absolutely fantastic to hear or to play around with live, right? Because it has a lot of call and response parts, and it's just such a fun song to sing along with. So they played that, and of course, the audience probably got more into it than they did for the past 5 or 6 songs as well. So props to them for choosing this song to cover, and they did a pretty good job with it as well. It definitely had a different feel to it, but you know, it's Tokimeki Experience, right? So everybody enjoyed it. So, following up from the hype of Tokimeki Experience, they went into yet another hype song, Fujiyama Disco. Again, I love this song, but not really much more needs to be said about this. I already mentioned it in day 1. So it's a great song to listen to. Actually, I really dig the bass parts in this song. Number 9 is Bisan, another participation song. And this one, I believe this is the one that goes as the call part. And again, like I mentioned before, Silent Siren, even though this is day 2 of playing this song, they just assume that you have not heard it before, you don't know how to do the calls, and so they took their time to teach everybody again, right? So again, this is something that, you know, I might be harping on this a little bit too much, but I do feel like this is something that Poppin Party needs to learn themselves as well, especially if they want to continue to grow as a actually full-fledged band. So anyways, that's Bisan, and they end the same as yesterday with Koi no Esper. So again, they played the supernatural power part where, you know, Sue raised her hands, went stop, and so everybody froze. It's quite similar to day 1 as well. Most people did play along and freeze along with her. Again, there were some annoying people shouting and screaming in the back stands. Well, screw them. And then so Sue would, the guitar vocalist, would play around and resume time and then stop time again, right? And this time she also did another skit, which is rewinding time, right? So she rewinded time all the way to the beginning, and so the band started playing Cherry Bomb again, the first song from their set list. And so everybody started doing Cherry Bomb again. But then they ended the skit with saying, oh no, they don't have enough time left, they need to hand over the reins to Poppin Party. And so that concluded Silent Siren's part overall. So I guess it's quite similar to day 1. I don't think there's anything specific for day 2 that I want to mention. Personally, I enjoyed the set list of day 1 more. But then again, that's just personal preference. I guess day 2 you can say is more fun, but day 1 had, you know, the monster song, so I dig that one very much. But it, you know, they're still beautiful as always. I believe they had some changes to their style, although, to be honest, I didn't really pay that much attention. Yeah, I know, you know, they're beautiful and all that, but I'm here for the music. Alright, so they concluded their part, and then so they gave their thanks, they went out, and then there we start into an intermission period with the videos. Again, similar to, oh, actually, music videos. They played some music videos of both Poppin Party and Silent Siren as sort of the intermission period where they set up the stage for Poppin Party, and that happened in day 1 as well. I think I forgot to mention it yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but in my other video. So after the you know, music videos and whatnot, after the intermission period, there was an announcement saying, oh, the show is about to start, let everybody get back, and they started off with a bang, right? And I mean a literal bang. I think they put out some, you know, those fireworks or whatnot in order to open the stage. And that actually got a jump out of me because I wasn't expecting that. And then they actually played the first song. They started off with Natsu no Don. So I was very glad. This is one of my favorite songs, although I still feel that the Fifth Live performance is probably my favorite version of this. Seriously, if you guys haven't seen that, you should check it out. The lighting, the hand gestures, the sound, you know, the audience. The Natsu no Don from Fifth Live was basically perfect. All right, so I really love that performance. I love this song. And you know, this is sort of like the Tao throwing song, the Tao spinning song of PoPiPa. So again, you can see the contrast between how Poppin Party do things and how Silent Siren does things, right? So even though this is a sort of a Tao spinning and throwing song, they didn't really do any of this kind of tutorial. They just simply went into it. And people who know Bang Dreamers or Poppin Party fans, they would just basically get their towels out or the pen lights out and start waving it around, right? And as for the rest of the people, for SaiSai fans, they basically just need to catch up to it, right? So this is a kind of difference in doing things, although again, I'll mention this a little bit more at the end. So immediately after Natsu no Don, they keep on the tension with time lapse, and they also let the moving stage start moving forward as well to the far parts. Time lapse, I don't need to explain anymore. It's just a great song. Again, it's definitely a song that can get the tension up. Oh, one thing I will say actually about song 1 and song 2. So because Silent Siren were because Poppin Party were the first to go for day 1, when they played, it was actually still lights out. There were still lights out. So actually, how should I say it? There was still sunlight. All right, there was still natural light. But in this, for this day, because they were second to play, it was basically night already. So it did give a very different lighting effect on Poppin Party as a whole, and what you know, and it had a difference between the atmosphere of the songs, if you will. So time lapse, you know, when they're playing it, it's a very sort of, I believe it's a darkish red and whatnot, and it definitely looks much better in at nighttime than it does for during daytime. So that was a key difference there. So after that, they went to the far side of the stage, and then they had a quick happy birthday to Saya. Saya, the character, the drummer of Poppin Party, the fictional drummer of Poppin Party, she has her birthday on May 19th, so it was actually this day. So they went and did a big, just saying happy birthday, and then a congratulations, and that was basically that. It felt kind of like, they didn't do enough, but at the same time, I guess I can kind of see why they didn't really want to go overboard with this. Even though Poppin Party is a sort of a mix of a real band and a fictional band, they have fictional members and real members as well. Because this concert is more of a collaboration with an outside band, I think they focused a little bit more on the actual real people rather than the fictional characters. Indeed, during this time, there was no skits of any sort in character. It was basically just the 5 members of Poppin Party, the real people, the seiyus, the voice actors themselves. It was their stage, if you will. It wasn't the fictional band's stage. So I guess that was enough of an homage to them, and to Saya as well. So after that, they followed up with Happy Happy Party, again going on to different cards and whatnot. I already talked about in day 1, so I'm not gonna comment too much on that part. Alright, and then next up, when Poppin Party returned to the main stage through the cards, they had another quick talk segment, right? So, as I mentioned in day 1, you know, they really seemed relaxed and carefree for both days of this Dome concert, so it felt very natural, and they were just fooling around, playing around, and, I mean, Poppin Party fans generally like this, right? They like this atmosphere, so it was nice to see them, really, you know, just letting loose and whatnot, and being more free, more carefree. So, and another part that they parodied, that they played with, was they parodied Silent Siren's Koino Esper, you know, the whole time-stopping thing, right? So Aimi wanted to do something similar to Sue, and also wanted to stop time as well. So she played around with it, and then everybody also played along with it as well. So she went like, stop, and everybody in the stands, everybody on stage also stopped, and then so they fooled around, you know, mixed to different positions, you know, stopping time at different positions and whatnot. So it was just funny to see, right? And there was also, I believe, one part where even after Aimi shouted resume, Ayasa, the keyboardist, was still stopped, and so then she wanted everyone in the stand in the arena or in the stadium to chant Ayasa's name, and that broke the spell, right? So just a little fun part from their end, impromptu fun part from their end. And then immediately after that, the next song is Double Rainbow. Lots and lots of people were asking for this song, and indeed for a lot of people it's a god tier song as well, since it is the second chapter song for Poppin Party. There's actually not really much call and response parts for this. There's only one specific part where you shout Double Rainbow, but I gotta say, when the part comes to shout Double Rainbow, everybody shouted Double Rainbow, okay? The tension for this song was quite high, considering, you know, it's... I don't know, I'm a little bit more lukewarm to it compared to other songs, but I mean, I like it, but you can definitely feel the love people have for this song during that part. So then, the big part, right? After Double Rainbow, they played Returns, right? And my memory is a little fuzzy. I think what happened was that after Double Rainbow ended and everyone applauded, woo, and whatnot, Sai just directly started playing the intro chords to Returns. At least I believe that's how it happened. And boy, when people when people start realizing that Poppin Party were going to play Returns, I'm telling you, everybody went crazy, right? When later on I met with my friends I met who are SaiSai fans, they were like, what? They said they were completely bewildered by this scene. Like, what exactly is happening? Why is everybody going into crazy mode, right? So, of course, Returns is, again, a god tier song, right? And I think anybody who is attending this concert probably already knows the backstory about Returns. So it was indeed nice to see. They didn't spoil it. They just went directly into it. And I know I was one of the people who were in Machide. Seriously, that kind. I believe it actually went into a trending topic as well on Twitter. Not No Girl No Cry, right? Not NGNC, not PoPiPa, not SaiSai, but actually Returns got into one of the top trending topics on Twitter that day. So that should show you how much people care about this song. And it was great, right? Even though they had made no mention of it, the song itself literally had just been released about 3 days ago. Everybody turned their pen lights into the color blue, right? Tai's color, because it is a song related with Tai. And so that was fun to see. That was great to see. And the performance itself was great as well, especially in terms of the vocal parts. No, personally, I feel like the instrumental to Returns isn't that difficult compared to some of the other Poppin Party songs, but the vocals, once I actually got to hearing the full thing, it's a very high song, actually. But Aimee, to her credit, her voice didn't really break at any point through this performance. Now, the sad part is the sound mix for this song was not really up to par, and it was actually the start of a long string of sound problems, starting from this song all the way to the end of Poppin Party segment. So in this segment, particularly, the sound mix between the different instruments was not correct. Sometimes you could hear the keyboard, sometimes you can only hear the guitar. Well, actually, I think, thinking back to it, I think I can only hear the guitar, the keyboard I could barely hear. And even more annoying was the fact that Aimee's vocals voice, her mic was turned way up in comparison to the instrumentals. So then you would have this very overbearing vocal sound, while the rest of the instrumentals were quiet in comparison. So that was really a huge bummer for me, especially because, it's Returns, right? A very emotional song. Judging from some reports that I've seen, by the end of the song, most of the members were in tears as well. Maybe not actually crying, but at least a few teardrops and whatnot. I didn't actually get to see that. I was, at that point, a little bit more furious at the sound mix, at the sound engineers. But it's quite disappointing that such a fabulous performance was marred by this. So, I hope next time they can get their shit together. Alright. Considering the hype for this and considering their performance, PoPiPa's performance, I guess for the most part, it was good. There was definitely a few timing issues as well with the drums. If you guys remember the song Returns, there's this one part where it has it gradually slows down, right, and then immediately picks up after. So I believe they sort of mistimed that part a little bit, both times. It might be due to sound delays, it might be due to sound issues or whatnot, so that was also a little mark against them as well. But for the most part, it was great, and Aimee's vocals were great in this song. So, yeah, what can I say? The place exploded when, and I mean really, really exploded when they started playing Return. So, such a great song. So then immediately after returns, I believe they did a quick MC segment. I'm not, my memory is a little bit hazy on that. But after that, they resumed with Sing Girls. I mentioned this already. I absolutely love it live, and to me, it has this song along with Kizuna Music has a special place in my heart, especially after after the events of the anime and just the whole story of PoPiPa as a whole. So I'm glad that they sang this one again. It's one of my favorites. Waving around, and also the 4 3 2 1 ready go. The call and response parts to this are so fun as well. After that, they did Circling. So Circling again is a fun participation song. You can form the circles along with everyone. For this song, they played it whilst they were moving on the moving stage, and actually not the moving stage, but while they were moving in the carts as well, so circling the stage once again. So in this song as well, the sound mix, it was so bad. So bad. Again, there was numerous parts where people's mics were supposed to be on, but it wasn't. Sometimes you could hear the instrumentals, sometimes you couldn't. The instruments, they change between being too loud and too quiet and whatnot, and also because of the delay issue, there is also this huge problem with the drums. Now Hashi was using a more simplistic drum set at that point, but because she was on the carts, right? But I don't know, to me it just felt off somehow. Again, it might be the delay issue I mentioned in day one, but anyways, it was kind of a mess. Now, thankfully, everybody was still hyped for it, and it's a fun participation song, right? But I'm just saying that the sound for this song in particular I wasn't feeling it at all. And I think it was during this time where whilst they were moving back to the main stage that Aimi apparently had some mic problems or ear monitor problems, so she then disappeared into the backstage, and it was up to the other 4 members to try and keep the tension out and hype up the crowd. So by all means, I think what was supposed to happen was they were supposed to go directly into the next song, which is Teardrops, right? And actually for this day, they did the intro for Teardrops. So again, if you guys have seen some of their more earlier lives, they actually have a special intro instrumental that goes directly into Teardrops. It starts with Sai's guitar, her distortion and delay, as well as some of the other members as well, and then eventually stopping, and then they go into Teardrops, right? But anyways, I think that was what was supposed to happen, so they did continue to playing the background instrumental music, but at the same time, because Aimi had some problems, right, so they couldn't exactly start. So during this time, they were trying to, especially Ayasa, the keyboardist, was trying to do some hyping up of the crowd, right, like doing the PoPiPa chant, PoPiPa, people pa, PoPiPa, people pa. But the problem here was, again, the sound levels were out of whack, were completely whack, right? So the instrumentals during that time were way too loud, and we had no idea what the members on stage were actually saying. They were, by all means, they were playing around, trying to hype up the crowd and whatnot, but because the volume was so low, we really couldn't hear what they were saying, and so we, the cheers or the chants were a little bit disoriented, right? They weren't all in sync. So part of this definitely is the sound issue problem, but again, maybe part of this is also due to their own experience, Poppin Party's own inexperience in handling this type of situation. By all means, this seemed to be a impromptu situation that happened, so I guess it's better to have this kind of situation on your home turf than to have it happen when you're away, right? Attending some other kind of outside event. But still, I think it both shows flaws in Bushiroad's sound engineering department, as well as flaws in PoPiPa's own ability to sort of handle the crowd. But anyways, once Aimi got her problem fixed, then they started with Teardrops again. And thankfully, Teardrops didn't have any specific issues there. So again, Teardrops is Teardrops. No need to say anymore. And so finally, we end with Starbeat and Kizuna Music, right? Starbeat, again, I talked about it last episode. I mean, for day one as well, so I'm not gonna repeat myself. Kizuna Music, I felt like is entirely appropriate being an ending song to a concert, right? Compared to it being the opener, I feel like it fits much more as a closer, and indeed, it was a great closer. Again, I've mentioned my thoughts about Kizuna Music as well, how it now has a special position in my heart alongside Sing Girls. But anyways, great ender and great way to, I guess you can't really say keep the tension, but just the special feeling that you get from hearing this song. It definitely works great as a sort of ending, right? So gently let people down, but still wanting for more, that kind of tension. Right, so great ending song to the concert. And during this time, again, they had those big balloons and whatnot, and they had big balloons floating around. I mentioned this in day one as well. Since I was in the back seats for this time, I didn't get to participate in that. But it was, again, kind of funny watching all the balls bouncing around in the arena seats. And then they eventually piercing them, letting all the balloons out. For people to take as souvenirs back home. So that concluded Poppin Party's part, and after that they also like, I'm sure there were some MC segments interspersed between. Like one part I do recall is that they were again praising Silent Siren and talking about their relationship with Silent Siren. I believe for me, one of the things that stuck out to me was how Aimee again said that Silent Siren smelled very nice, similar to what she did during 7th Live. But anyways, not that important in the grand scheme of things. So after that, they just basically waved goodbye, went to the backstage, and then the Encore chants started, right? So then let's talk about the Encore. So this time, compared to day one, they actually let people, chant Encore for a bit longer, rather than just the 10 seconds or so that we were given for day one. Personally, I don't really like this whole Encore system or whatnot, but it is sort of tradition. So, hey, what the heck? So anyways, so people who want to stay and continue to watch would be there chanting Encore, right? And actually, I have to say, quite a few people decided to leave during this part. And I guess if you think about it, a lot of them left because, well, like I said, it's Sunday, right? They want to find a way to get back to their homes in order to have school or work the next day. And so, by all means, them leaving now would mean that it wouldn't be as crowded as when they left with the general audience, and so they could go back earlier. And, considering that the Encore really only consists of one song, I guess I can't entirely blame them, but it did felt a bit disrespectful, if you will, of them just leaving there. But then again, you can also argue that Encores are not supposed to be expected anyways, so whatever. Anyways, that's what happened there, and so after 5 minutes or so of chanting Encore, then they again did the videos, with both bands talking about their interactions with each other and what they like about each other and blah blah blah. And then so finally all 9 of the girls again came out to say thanks and have some interactions and eventually play No Girl No Cry, right? So I think the only particular thing to note there is that Ayasa and Ayaka, the keyboardist and drummer of Poppin Party, they really liked the flashy LED glasses. And so they were given the glasses as gifts by the members of Silent Siren to take home as well. These two are more of the playful types, so it makes sense that they and later on they also had some photos, backstage photos of them playing around with it. So anyways, it was just a cute thing to watch, right? And so in the very end, they all sang No Girl No Cry together. Again, similar to day one, I felt like the mix wasn't exactly the best, and especially the parts between Aimee and Sue did kind of sound weird. in terms of the key differential for some parts, but mostly it was okay. And they actually also announced something as well. I forgot to mention this. They announced that I believe in July they're going to be releasing the single that is a collaboration version between Poppin Party and Silent Siren. So right now for No Girl No Cry, you can either listen to the Poppin Party version or you can listen to the Silent Siren version. But this new version that they're going to release features the members of both bands collaborating together. So the vocals of both bands would be in that one version of No Girl No Cry, and that's actually pretty nice because I've actually already listened to some fan edits of mashing up both versions together, and I actually really like the sound that they portray when they're mixed together. So I'm looking forward to this new single as well. So after that, the usual, thanks and whatnot, and then everybody basically was free to leave the stadium. The concert is over. So not much happened during that part because I was in the outside seats for this time. I was able to leave a little bit earlier, but I later on met up with some of my friends, and then we all went to eat dinner and talk about, me talking from a perspective of a Bang Dreamer as a Poppin Party fan, and them talking from their perspective as SaiSai fans. So we had this kind of conversation, which I felt was pretty nice and pretty fitting considering the theme of this concert, right? Which is in a way bringing these two bands together, and as well as bringing the fan bases of these two bands together. So I thought that was quite a fitting end to the entire concert for me. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on a No Girl No Cry concert? So personally, from a personal perspective, I enjoyed it very much. It was very fun for me. It's my first time attending this kind of thing. So, attending this kind of big large-scale concert with tens of thousands of people attending at the same time, shouting and cheering along with everyone. That is definitely an experience that I haven't had before, right? I'm more familiar with the small, live house type of a few hundred people or whatnot, and maybe some outdoor festivals. So this was definitely fun for me. It's a little bit too bad about the sound issues, but to be honest, I knew what I was getting into when I got here. It's just that there are still some things that could be better. So, I mean, eventually I'm probably going to be watching the Blu-ray version anyways. Definitely, attending these things live, it's more of a participation thing, if you will. In terms of the two bands, on Poppin Party's side, of course, they were awesome as usual. I definitely don't regret supporting Poppin Party, of course. Aimee's sound was the best that I've ever heard of her, and all the rest of the members did great as well. Maybe Hashi could have, but then again, it's that's her thing, right? So maybe she used the simplified drum set a little bit too much for my taste. But then again, it's Hashi, right? She likes to move around, she likes to dance around and play around with the other members as well. So I can't really fault her for that. And beyond that, like I said before, Poppin Party as a whole, they just felt very carefree, very energetic, and, they acted like they owned this place, right? And, strictly speaking, yes, in this context, that's true, but I'll talk a little bit about that later. But they just felt so natural for me for this time, much even more natural than their past events. So it's definitely great to watch them grow, if you will, as a band, starting from original to how they are now, where they just have this aura of knowing what they're doing, if you will. And on Silent Siren's side as well, I already knew of them before, but again, watching them live, you can really get the sense of how great veterans they are, how many years that they have been playing together, how many the professionalism they exhibit. So I think I've mentioned this so many times in my day 1 and day 2 reports already, but still, I really like the way how they try to get the audience involved and let everybody have fun as well. That is definitely something that I feel is my biggest takeaway from them for this event. Their songs, again, they're mostly hit and miss with me, so some I still like, some I still dislike, but at the very least, because of this event, the next time some news about Silent Siren pops up, I will definitely be keeping more of an eye on them due to their kind of proximity to Bang Dream and to Poppin Party now. And of course, if you guys like beautiful, cute girls and playing badass instruments, give these girls a shot, right? So not really much else I can talk about for them. Now, in regards to actually hosting a dome concert, so first of all, the attendance for this concert has been released, right? I believe one source is saying that about 30,000 people over 2 days. Now that is quite a small number, considering that a dome can usually sit 30,000 in itself for 1 day. So you can say maybe half of what was expected. Now, they definitely didn't only sell half the seats, right? Because they actually configured the dome to be even less big than it could have been. But definitely, one would think, like, why exactly choose a dome in the first place? Is it really simply because they wanted to have this, they wanted to be able to say that they've hosted a dome concert and whatnot, but definitely, if that was the case, then I feel like that is way too shallow of a reason, and they could have had much better performances in other places as well. And also, one thing I want to note about the attendance, right? It's actually, like I mentioned, probably 90% of people there were Bang Dreamers or PoPiPa fans, and maybe only 10% comprised of SaiSai fans. And, I asked about this a little bit later to my SaiSai friends that I met, and they said that, for them, actually, attending this kind of big event is not really very high up on the priority, considering the location, considering the venue, considering the prices. A lot of the SaiSai fans would much rather attend the live house performance, because Silent Siren are actually on tour right now. So they tour around to a lot of these live houses where it's much more intimate. It gives a much more intimate feeling, and you don't need to break your wallet in order to attend. So that is one of the potential reasons that for low attendance from SaiSai side. And just overall, right? The venue, the acoustics, I think I've harped about it a lot already. It's definitely in a pretty remote location. It's not very suitable. I mean, not very suitable, but it's not very easy to get to and to go back from. And the sound acoustics, partially I still believe it's Bushiroad's fault, but partially it's also the general sound acoustics of this kind of open air dome, right? And also, probably one of the biggest factors, like I've been saying this is right when it was announced in February. Like, it is seriously not a good idea to have such a large-scale event literally less than 3 months from your previous one, right? So in February, they already did the Budokan concert with 10,000 people, and less than 3 months later, you want to do a dome concert, and 2 days at that? I don't know, it felt insane to me the first time the news came out, and it's still insane to me right now that that's how they chose to do it. Somebody definitely didn't think things through, right? It's really, that's why a lot of people are just saying that, they only did this because they can then, sort of like a feather in the cap situation, right? So then they can say, okay, these are bands that have been to domes, that have held dome concerts before. But if that's the case, then seriously, I just want to ask, like, who wants this? Anyways, like, I would have been perfectly fine if they actually announced a end of the year dome concert or something, much further away and away from all the other events and whatnot. Or heck, just do a normal concert at another arena type field that hosts 10,000 people, right? You can still do 2 days if that's exactly what you want. But in any case, I think it definitely left a bad taste in a lot of people. And of course, there's also the issue that because it's a battle of bands, so two bands are together, and consisting of generally different demographics, if you will. I definitely know a lot of, I've definitely seen a lot of people who are on the SaiSai side who don't want to listen to Poppin Party, and also for those who are on Poppin Party side who don't really want to listen to Silent Siren. So that is, of course, also one of the big issues here. Now, As for them actually wanting to branch out, like I've said before, I love listening to girl bands, right? And I also love Poppin Party, actually more so the actual real-life Poppin Party rather than the fictional one. I like the story of how the real-life Poppin Party got together, how they're doing their best seiyus to sort of break into this kind of band territory. Right, their story is definitely something that's very compelling to me, and that's why I want to support them. And so, you know, I welcome them trying to become a fully fledged girl band rather than one that's just rooted in anime and only has an anime demographic or anime ACG demographic, if you will. So that's why I absolutely do love the direction that they're trying to go with, you know, doing this kind of collaborations with actual girl bands. And it's been announced that they're going to be attending Rock in Japan, which is one of the biggest summer rock festivals in Japan, where to me they are going to be facing much harsher conditions than they have faced so far. Like, you know, Poppin Party have been relatively sheltered so far in the events, right? Sure, they had their hardships starting out in 2015 and whatnot, but they haven't really gone to places where I would say it's a hostile environment, right? Or apathetic environment where people don't really want to care for your music. And this is definitely going to be a great challenge to them, how they are able to hold a crowd and entice a crowd which has no knowledge of you and is also generally doesn't hear stuff or listen to stuff that's similar to you. And I think this concert in particular is a great experience for Poppin Party, seeing how SaiSai handles the crowds, seeing how they interact with the crowds, how they turn you know, apathetic crowds into their fans, or at least being able to have fun alongside them. That's definitely something that PoPiPa can work on and utilize with their next few events that they're going to do. And perhaps, you know, like I said, I do want to see them break out into the mainstream as well, even though honestly it does seem kind of a pipe dream, considering that they all have their own obligations as well, especially in Ayaka's case, in Hashi's case, the drummer, who is by all means one of the biggest rising stars in the voice actor industry right now. Like, her schedule is seriously packed. Aimi does a lot of stuff as well, and you know, Sai has her own solo work, and so does Ayasa and Rimi as well. They all have their own solo works. So are they going to actually be able to you know, put in the effort required to be an actual legitimate band? It depends, right? Although I talk about this a little bit in my goods video, but one of the interviews that I read about them from this Bang Dream Ready for the Party Gigs special book, so one of the things that actually stood out to me was that they 5 years without fail have rehearsals every single week, and indeed that's something that they are pretty insistent upon, right? It's not just for show, it's something that they all agreed on and they've been consistently doing for the past 5 years. So I do kind of still see their commitment to this, and that's why, you know, if they are committed to doing this, if this is something they want, then me as a fan, of course, I would 100% support them in this part. And so hopefully, you know, with this new direction that Bushiroad is trying to push for them, trying to put them into mainstream, you know, I definitely will continue to support their endeavors into this part in the future as well. Like, honestly, I was actually a little bit scared this year in regards to, you know, how the Bang Dream franchise is sort of changing and evolving as a whole. It really seemed to me, you know, it's always been back in my mind that maybe Bushiroad is going to try to milk Poppin Party for whatever worth they have left and then move on to other bands and whatnot, right? But it seems, at least for now, that they simply have a different road that they believe Poppin Party can travel upon. And if this road does coincide with them going mainstream, I am all for it. Hopefully one day we will able to have CDs and other merchandise, or see them on, you know, with Poppin Party as the actual people and not just the characters. That would be great for me. I mean, we're already seeing a start of this somewhat for this event, right? Where they actually have live action music video, not live action music video, but music videos that feature the real people, as well as the posters and whatnot, which all feature the actual people rather than the fictional characters. So good on them. I feel like whatever the case, whatever you want to feel about the attendance, I'd still say this event was a success in the end, and I do appreciate them for doing this. So I think that concludes all my thoughts. I do have some other content coming out in regards to No Girl No Cry. Again, I will have some vlogs, I'll have some goods introductions, and there's still day 1, day 2 as well. In terms of Bang Dream, I have watched the Bang Dream season 1 and season 2, and you can watch with me, along with me, or rewatch it along with me on my channel as well. I have videos of that, and if not, well, just look around and see if there's anything you like. If there's any questions you have in regards to the concert, feel free to ask me them and I'll do my best to answer. So until next time, this has been Mavry from Musings of Mavry, and I will see you guys hopefully next time as well. Hope you enjoyed your stay. This is Mavry signing off. Bye bye.